smart. Hello and welcome to CHGO Red Stars Podcast, brought to you by PointsBet. Download the PointsBet app today and sign up with CHGO to get your first 2 bets risk-free, up to $2,000.
We're back in the studio.
Y'all. We made it. It's been a while. We shouldn't have left you. Thought a dope beat to step to.
True.
It's your girl Sandra, ready to chat all things Chicago Red Stars. My friend, homie, and colleague Claire Watkins, aka the Scam Originator. We're back in studio.
It's true.
We've been doing these remote.
Yeah.
We were getting in the last days of summertime shy.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we're going to have to do these remote for a little while. Also, the Red Stars were on the road, so we were like, we too.
Yeah, we too were like
should
kind
be
of on the road. Yeah. So this is like a homecoming for everybody.
And it's good stuff. Good energy. The Red Stars had a couple of games that we have to chat about. I believe the last time we did this, we did a dual preview. So we're going to do a bit of a dual recap.
Yep.
For everybody. And yeah, I'm just psyched to be able to do this in person. I was just I had texted Claire earlier, and I was like, I miss you, dude. I'm like really excited to see you in studio today.
I know. When our weekly little Friday chats, we get to hang out. Yeah, no, it's exciting. It's also just good. I mean, it's good vibes, right? Last time we did an episode, we were like, we're not sure what's going to happen this week, right? We're like, OL Reign is tough, Lumen Field is tough, going on the road is tough. Short rest against Kansas City. Kansas City's been playing really well, and they did okay, right?
You know what? Chicago Red Stars are undefeated in 3.
That's right.
And 2 of those were dubs. So it's like, you know what? I think at this point in the season, you got to take them where you can get them. And I think towards the end of that episode, we were like, you know what? It's the final month / like weeks of the regular season, and we just need to do our best to try to like help manifest very good Chicago Red Stars things. And I was just like, you know what? We're just going to come back and talk about all kinds of like good stuff, and hopefully we're going to talk about a dub. And we're going to get to talk about one of them, but we got to talk about that first one.
Yeah.
So they had this final game of a long road trip. So they had 4 games on the road, pretty much no August home matches for the most part. They closed it out on the road against OL Reign. It was their first time facing off against the Reign at their new home facility, which is Lumen Field, primarily an NFL facility for Seattle Seahawks, and then MLS for the Sounders. So I was a little curious as to, how the Red Stars were going to fare there. It's a pretty big field, but I don't know. I think we were like a little bit like, we weren't really making a pick where we're like, yeah, like the Red Stars are going to take this. I think it's safe to say that we were both like, you know what, if they get a result, like that's decent if they come on, and they ended up doing that.
No bad points on the road in the NWSL. Like it's just true. It sounds fake, but it really is true. There's no bad points on the road in the NWSL, certainly against a team like OL Reign. We say this sometimes, but sometimes these results say as much about the Red Stars as they do about the other team that they were playing. And as everybody saw, this was as much about OL Reign not being able to close out a win than it was about Chicago hanging tough. Though, I mean, credit to Chicago, right? They did hang tough. Alyssa Nair had a very good game. And they got a couple lucky bounces, and they got maybe I think this is so funny, too, because with, like, the handball call, the handball rules change, like, yearly, and I think that call maybe would have been correct last year. I'm not sure it's correct this year.
Yeah.
It's like it was a correct handball call, but maybe not in 2022. Yeah. And so,
what season is this?
Yeah, hey, relatable. But yeah, I mean, I think that one, they got a couple lucky bounces, but you do get that sometimes. And credit to the team for like sticking with it despite, I mean, if we want to throw up that XG map even just right away to show people.
Yeah, let's just get into it. Honestly.
Yeah, shout out Ariel, always putting these up. It's really great to have these.
Look at that big old
Look at that first half. Woo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Love a graph.
Yeah.
Love a graph. Yeah, again, shout out to Ariel for these. And look, I'm not going to lie. Watching this game and the way it got started, I said, oh, no. I did. It got an oh no out of me. In the beginning of this game.
that line reading from Devil Wears Prada where Meryl Streep is like, "Why is nobody ready?" That was me watching the Red Stars in the first half of this game.
Well, you know what? We look, full disclosure here. We're all about the transparency. We were kind of texting through it a little bit.
Yeah, we were.
We were definitely like each other's emotional support Chicago Red Stars watcher.
Yeah.
And we definitely were like tuning in, every once in a while, checking in on the other. But I did feel some type of way when Heidema got that one through.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, like, is this going to be a thing for Chicago just on the stretch? Like, there's these moments where Chicago concedes these types of goals. And I'm talking about these types of goals where it's just enough of those, like, very narrow defensive error margins where it's enough for the other team to sneak it through.
Well, there was that element, and I do think it's interesting that, like, that first goal was scored centrally because they were getting killed on the wings. And I think credit to the adjustments, right? They absolutely made some important adjustments in the second half. They also, we have to look at this holistically. They rested Bianca St. George and Mal Pugh for the first half of this game, paid off big dividends in the midweek game. So, like, playing chess, not checkers, but the wingers were not ready for that OL Reign team. Megan Rapinoe got in isolation against Amanda Kowalski over and over and over again. And I'm just like, don't do that to the rookie. Like, help her. Yeah. We were not seeing tracking back as much as we probably needed to from the wing backs. And then, and so they kind of got hung out to dry. Huerta was very effective on the other end. Yeah. But again, this is like a little bit about Seattle. Couldn't punch it in more than once. And as we know, if you stay ready, you don't got to be ready. And end of that first half, she kept moving and nobody else did. So
it's weird thing about movement in a soccer game. Here it's pretty helpful. Again, maybe I brought this up a couple of moments in our episodes throughout this season, but looking at the timing of things sometimes in which they occur for the Chicago Red Stars, and like Ella Stevens getting this equalizer in the 45th minute stoppage time, going into that halftime, immense. Like, it just was, because it was really starting to feel a certain type of way. It was, we had a couple of those this weekend in NWSL where just sort of like a slight error by a goalkeeper kind of shocked everybody. And so everybody just kind of froze. But Ella Stevens didn't. She was like the one person who didn't. She kept moving. I mean, like, I think like Nikki Stanton had a moment on the ball that like wasn't amazing. Hill also stops. Hill is also in the box, and she's not moving. But Ella Stevens, and then they go in tied, and I do think immediately you're like, okay, they survived. Soccer is a funny game sometimes. Yes, it
is. This is how you steal a point.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of with 12 teams in a league, and this could probably echo similarly for other certain leagues across the globe, but there's a lot of good goalkeepers out there.
True.
In the world. And like there's like games like this where it's like they just look kind of human. Like we saw, like, Alyssa Nair got one put on her fairly early in this match, and then Tullis Joyce, who's been having a really good bit of a breakout, I think, for her in the Reign. Unable to come to make a save on this one for Stevens, and you see both, Tullis Joyce and Huerta, quite frankly, who was there in support, both kind of like take a seat. Yeah. And they were just like, well, neither of us are getting that. Yep. And that was part of what was delightful of it for me. I was like, love that. Yeah. For Ella Stevens personally.
And you can also see, again, just the psychology of it. You saw how disappointed the Reign were in that sequence, how disappointed Huerta, like demonstrably just like disappointed that happened. And so you do go in with the momentum at halftime suddenly, because it's like, instead of the Reign coming out and dropping like 3 on you in the first half, they only got 1, and then you come back and you kind of sneak 1. Yep. And you go, this is the kind of game it's going to be. And then, in the second half, it was much better. They made adjustments to pull the wingbacks back a little bit more. Rachel Hill came back to help Kowalski, which was good. And also, Megan Rapinoe, I think, got a little bit more tired as the game went on, which is understandable. Yeah. And then, I mean, Chicago, that handball was what it was, but it was not for lack of, like, Chicago pressuring, I felt.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think during the second half they did better at picking and choosing those moments, and I think that was that was one of those moments. I think it was an important point to note that somebody like Rapinoe, who's, coming out, like they were coming off of those international windows, and then just sort of like getting the minutes back under her belt, right, after having the August that she had, and then sort of seeing that carry on into the second half, maybe kind of level things out a little bit, at least on that side of the pitch. But I mean, listen, man, how often are we going to get Danny Colaprico converting a PK? So I'm like, hell yeah, son. Like, loved it. Again, loved that for Ella Stevens, and loved that for Danny Colaprico, because in the preview we were talking about it. Sky had just got bounced from the playoffs.
I know.
Danny Colaprico was clearly invested in the Chicago Sky this season.
Yeah, she had to do it for him.
And she had to put it on. Had to do it for him. I loved that.
You know what's interesting, too, is I had this thought when I was writing piece for this week about Pugh, which it's so funny to me that that Pugh has increasingly, I mean, as we've seen over the last 3 games, her dead ball delivery has been very, very good. Like she's got 3 assists. She influenced that first goal in the Kansas City game, but it's kind of funny to me that she's so good on those dead ball situations now, except for PKs.
You know what? I don't know if there's a better like dead ball player right now. Like, and I mean like someone who can win those scenarios,
right,
for a team, and someone who could deliver on the other side of things. But like you said, it's like that PK component.
The PK component, for whatever reason.
Hold on a second. Yeah. For whatever reason, that one's not there.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was something interesting that we had noted kind of coming out of this game after chatting a bit post game. Sort of seeing how, again, coaching matchups are also of equal importance in this league. And we saw Harvey and Petroselli go at it once more. And Petroselli saying he was a little surprised that some of their national team members got the starts and B went as long as they did, because the clear plan for Chicago was to bring on Pugh and St. George's in the second half to kind of chase after the game. Mm-hmm. And at one point it gave them obviously the lead with the forced with the call and then the PK conversion, and it really kind of put Seattle on the ropes for a little bit before you had an amazing player. Yeah, Roosevelt just be like, banger. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. And she had a ridiculous screamer, right? Yep. For the equalizer. So the game plan was working, to their credit, for a certain part.
Yeah, and I also think that like if you're in a winning position and you drop 2 points based on that kind of a goal, I think it's you just sort of have to take your hat off and just be like, well, that was an incredible goal. But I think that they should feel good, and I think they did feel good about even putting the Reign in that position, that they needed a goal like that to even get a point out of this game, when at the beginning of the game it seemed like this was going to be like an easy 3 points for the Reign. And we've seen Chicago. They had a couple games in the middle of the season where they let it get out of hand, right? Like they had the Houston game that got out of hand. They had the North Carolina game that got out of hand. We've also seen them have the ability to do this. Like I'm thinking like the 2-2 draw in Kansas City, or the 2-2. Yeah, or the 2-2 draw against Portland at the beginning of the season. Like I think that when their minds are in the right place, they absolutely can kind of game their way through a match like this one. And I do genuinely believe it carried that momentum into Wednesday. I think if they get beat 2-0 or 2-1 in Seattle, I think that Wednesday does not go the way that it went.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think that was one of the things that obviously we brought up in talking about that massive dub over Louisville, and kind of trying to check expectations. Yeah. Being like, hey, like right. It's great to get a grand slam against, a team. But this is Racing Louisville, who are obviously like on their way to being eliminated from playoff contention. Yeah. Like they're clearly in a certain phase of their season. And we were like, what are you going to look like back-to-back quick turnarounds against like upper half table teams? Yeah. And I'm with you. I think, making sure that they got a result on the road against the Reign was huge for them going into that game against Kansas City, just with the scenarios going into that game specifically, number 5 and number 6 at the time, a point separating the two of these types of teams. Like, what was it going to look out coming out of this game? And it turns out it didn't really shift too much for either team at the time, but it was just good to see Chicago just sort of, I guess, kind of go in there with a game plan and execute it a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that just want to continue to see that moving forward in the remaining games of the regular season. I think if there was at any point in the game, even with the younger players who are involved in this roster, who may have looked a little like lost or confused, or like in their body language, like I would have had concerns, but we're not seeing that at this point in the season.
Well, yeah, and I think we have to look at that balance as well, because they've made some very slight changes to the lineup, and it probably doesn't help that Lubert's been dealing with a ankle issue. Yeah. But I thought, Jill Aguilera hung tough for that 45 that she had to battle against Huerta, which is like not an easy thing to do.
That's 2 games now.
Yeah.
She did really well against Huerta.
Yeah, and then I also think that, is it like a huge change? No, but they have switched to their having play the target 9. They're having Ella Stevens do it now. And Petroselli very specifically said that Stevens earned that in training. And I think you saw in both games why. I think we've talked about this, about how Ava Cook's strengths are different than Ella Stevens' strengths. Stevens she like does so many things well while not being a target 9.
Yeah. She's a roamer, man.
She's like a playmaker in that position.
Yeah.
And so, again, like the heads up play to be able to get the equalizer at the end of the first half. She does so much work for Pugh's 2 goals against Kansas City. Stevens is essential to both of those goals. And you see how she hopefully is feeling a little bit more empowered to like play her style of game.
Yeah.
And I think that is also having an effect, because we did see, this is super normal too for rookie seasons. You maybe start off strong and then maybe your role gets a little bit less clear, or other teams start scouting you and doing a better job of neutralizing you. But we've seen Cook recede a little bit in her effectiveness. And I think that, not that I don't think Cook is going to play an integral role in the next couple of weeks, but I liked what we saw from Ella Stevens in both of these games.
Yeah. I would say, like, they close out this game with a point on the road.
Yeah.
Right? So they go from having that 4-0 shutout against Louisville, go up against the Reign, get a point. They got 4 points in the bag coming back home to SeatGeek. I wonder, like, you look at this team and you say, like, hey, that's a team I would bet on right now going into this game against first place Kansas City, perhaps.
I believe so.
And if you're the betting kind, again, this is your reminder, download the PointsBet app today and sign up with code CHGO to get your first 2 bets risk-free up to $2,000. Okay, go ahead and download that right now if you can. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER for crisis counseling referral services. But if not, I think maybe the Red Stars are a team that you put a little money on.
Yeah.
If that's something that you're into, just saying. I would understand if people had apprehensions, though, for doing that, because it was a quick turnaround. Maybe not as fast, though, as some other things. Like, going Friday to a Wednesday is a little bit different than going, like, Saturday, Sunday to Wednesday.
Kansas City had a little bit of a disadvantage. They're not the only team this season that's had that issue. But, yeah, they were on the road in New Jersey on Sunday. Also, I think they just flew straight from New Jersey to Chicago.
Yeah, just a little bit different energy.
Yeah.
Depending on the day that you had the quick turnaround on. But I think going up against Kansas City, after being undefeated in 2 games, at this point, with their record, the scenario going into this game is you're going up against first place. You're going up against first place Kansas City Current. Yeah. And I think we were both a little curious as to how the team was going to look depending on that result against Old Reign. Obviously, we saw 45 minutes from Pugh. We saw 45 minutes from Bianca St. George's. And so I think the assumption there was like, okay, well, they'll get a start. They'll get starts against first place Kansas City. And I think for Matt Potter and the Current, maybe like a little bit of different energy. We saw Cassie Miller in that over.
Yeah, they were having to rotate for sure.
Definitely trying to like look at their week ahead of him.
Yeah.
And just sort of mapping things out the best way they can. But I gotta say, I do not for a second believed that this was going to be another Grand Slam for the Red Stars. I thought it was going to be a good game. Maybe it would be a little midweeky for both teams, that like maybe legs would get them towards the the end of the game,
Sure.
and maybe we get something that the Red Stars did win. Maybe it'd be something like a 2-1. No, man. Grand Slam shutout.
Yeah, I mean, the NWSL's been weird in that regard this season. I was talking to somebody else about this, about how when we talk about, like, the parity in the league, with how close things are at the top of the table, which they still are, right? We've got, like, 8 points between 1 and 6. But it's not this season necessarily been like every game is close.
Yeah.
It's been more like some days it feels like teams don't totally show up. I mean, I'm not blaming Kansas City on this. Like, we've seen like Louisville struggle with this. We've seen Chicago's had a couple blowouts not go their way. We've seen Portland dropping like huge score lines on teams. And it's interesting for me to be like, yes, points wise, we're seeing a lot of parity, but that means that, like, Chicago, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, they had a 4-0 loss and then a 4-0 win, like, back to back. And that is not necessarily super usual for NWSL. So this was just Kansas City's turn, it felt like, you know?
Maybe there was a little bit of that, honestly. I mean, quick start.
Yeah, that helps too, yeah.
To the game. Like, I just, like, you know, going there, got to watch this game live and take it in live, and watching Kansas City line up against Chicago at kickoff, it was similar to, I think, what we'd seen earlier in a game from them. They had overloaded. I mean, this is literally in the center circle. Like, they had overloaded the left. Like, I saw Kaiser and Hamilton, Labonta and Mays. Like, they all had come to, like, the left side of the pitch and looking to maybe kind of start attacking that way early. And I think you saw that. I mean, we heard Petroselli, Hill, Milazzo talk post-game about that. Like, actually, they presented some challenges for us. We got pinned in a little bit. But that even within the lessons of that, Milazzo's specifically speaking to that, saying how, like, the ability for us to kind of embrace that challenge and still kind of keep the score up on them throughout the game was big for them during this match. But I liked that the goals that came out of this game were combination of, again, dead ball scenarios, Pugh providing ridiculous service on some of these corners, and these just outstanding individual moments of brilliance that we see from Pugh. And like I liked that a lot. I like that was how these goals came about.
Well, I don't think you can get more like high transition than that first Pugh goal. Like, that was
high octane.
Yeah, truly. I mean, let's take a look at this. So
look at it.
The hilarious thing, the thing that I love about this is the chance that Pugh actually scores in her first goal of the match was a high XG chance. But, like, this doesn't tell the story of the 90-yard sprint from, like, basically just outside her own 18 all the way to in front of, like, that's the kind of stuff you see in youth soccer. Like, that was like, and we've talked about this before, Pugh can do that. Pugh can make a professional soccer game look like a youth soccer game where, like, one kid is just, like, on another level.
Watching it happen in real time, literally, like, having a moment where your face is heading, like, towards the north end. And then your neck is all of a sudden very slowly creeping towards
turning on a swivel.
The south end.
And
I was like, my goodness, I haven't had one. I was like, I can't remember the last time I had one of these moments.
At
a Red Stars game, and I think it might have been during the Sam Kerr era, where it's like last time we might have seen some stuff like that. I mean, just the moments of flair and excellence. I love a self-aware forward, like, just understanding that it's like, hey, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to get on this ball, and I'm going to do what I do with this ball.
I mean, I think, obviously, it's an incredible individual effort by Pugh. Like, that was ridiculous. Two nutmegs, first of all. Rounding the keeper to tap it in. Like, that is exceptional. That is a game slowing down for a player in a way that you just don't always get to see. So impressive. They didn't catch it on the stream in real time. They did on the other angle replay of her anticipating Kristen Edmonds' pressure as that ball was cleared by Zoe Morse. And so, I mean, she doesn't know exactly where Edmonds is. It's a slightly lucky just in that, like, I think that was a blind nutmeg. I think it was just a quick turn. And then once she gets moving, also nutmegs Elizabeth Ball. And that's just, you just don't see that a lot. And I wrote about this again. So Pugh, I think some people notice, and it's like Sandra said, some people notice that she calls her own number a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
But there is a reason for that. And also this goal it was a lone goal, but it also wasn't, because what we have seen in the past with Chicago is Pugh will go like that, and the rest of the Red Stars will watch her do that. They will be like, wow, there she goes. You know? And that's when she gets into trouble, when she truly has no other outlet, or there's no other player that defenses have to worry about. That's not what happened this time. Ellis Stevens stayed with Pugh, and not only stayed on side, there was a defender switch, and she stayed on side the whole time. And she provided an outlet all the way into goal the whole time, which forced Miller to think for a split second before rushing towards Pugh of, is she going to pass or is she going to shoot? And that changes things.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that, yes, is it like the Mallory Pugh show? Absolutely. But there are very specific ways of supporting that from the rest of the team that allowed that goal to happen, because when Pugh gets into trouble is a little bit closer to like what we saw from her second goal, but she got the ball off, which is that she's driving towards the box and nobody's going with her. And that's when it gets, I think, frustrating for her.
I think maybe that's shit. That gets frustrating for us. I think, I think that's maybe something that we wanted to see in, Mal 2.0 in the second season with the Red Stars. And I don't know if we've necessarily got that answer. And the answer to the question is just like, who are the collaborators?
Yeah, right.
For Mal Pugh and with Mal Pugh. And, it's kind of been like collaborator by committee. Yeah. Quite frankly. And that's just how the Red Stars have operated under this new era with Mal Pugh over the 2 seasons that they've had with her. Which is, I think, why when we see like her doing some cool things with BSG, or the very rare moments that we've seen with Yuki or DiBernardo, like just getting excited about those things because of what that could lead to, the creation, the collaboration, and having, like you said, those extra outlets. Yep. But I mean, just looking at some of these goal scoring moments for the Red Stars, to like see this game that Pugh had, and that she could have had not just one but really 2 assists. Yeah, quite frankly, this opening goal against Kansas City off of this corner kick, not credited with the assist. I believe it took a touch off of somebody else before Milazzo actually got a body part on it, which is
it went off a defender, which is why she didn't get the assist.
Pugh wasn't credited with that assist. But again, this is what we're talking about, where I'm just kind of like, man, like if there's another player out there that has become a killer on dead ball scenarios, like I would love to have a conversation about that. Yeah. Because for me, it's like, if there's a top 3, I think Mal Pugh might be number 1 right now. Yeah. Like whether it's providing service into the box or winning penalties, or just doing what you continue to do. Shout out to Thomas. We didn't complain about the Sam Kerr show, so some other residents had the scoring. Yeah, that's true. I mean, why not? So
when Mal Pugh's like moving with the ball, when you saw that first run, did you say to yourself, "Wow, it's game time"?
I did, actually. As a matter of fact, I got a little like, I got a little bit like, hey man, where's the like arena music for that? Where's that like? Where's the hey? Yeah,
where's
that? I'm like, give me that energy.
What's also game time? Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. You won't find a better deal this season on, I guess it's fall, right? So we've got like Bears and Bulls.
Everything's happening.
And I mean, we'll see how long baseball lasts, but
there's another Red Stars.
There's a couple more Red Stars games. Guarantees lowest price, created by the fans for the fans. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. And the best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description, the YouTube description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events.
Love it.
Yeah. So second half of this game got a little bit wacky.
Adjustments.
Yeah, some adjustments were made. Yeah, I think that's also good though too. Like we've seen, like again, we talked about games getting out of hand a little bit in Chicago's season, and I do like when we went through this whole stretch where we were really concerned about goal scoring, right? Oh, yeah. And to be able to actually pile it on. 4 goals against Louisville, 2 goals against OL Reign, 4 goals against Kansas City. That's a marked difference. They've now got a +8 goal differential, which they were back at 0, I think, after the North Carolina loss. So that's huge. And I liked that they continued to find ways to score. Yeah. Because I think that's going to be really important if they do make playoffs. That keeps you in a game.
Keeps you in a game, but I just can't emphasize enough how, like, in this, it's not even like a final month of games. Like, we're down to like weeks and multi-game weeks, quite frankly, because it's like like we saw the Red Stars. It's not just them. There are multiple teams right now down this stretch of the season that have match heavy weeks. So I just am like, I'm like, no one here is trying to get ahead of themselves on the Red Stars and playoffs right now, especially not at CHGO or you or I. But I cannot emphasize this very small run that they're on right now, this 3-game undefeated streak, and the trio of teams in which they faced, how good that feels.
Yeah, and again, specifically kind of what we were talking about with Pugh and dead ball situations, it's really good that they're scoring on set pieces. That's huge. For a really long time, NWSL in general, like, there's not a ton of teams that could say, like, hey, this is an X factor for us. Yeah.
And this is something that we're good at and can execute well. And I think at this point of the season, the Red Stars are, like, the main team within that conversation.
Yeah.
I think for a little while there, people were, like, talking about racing for a little while. And it's just, like, I think it was just, you're very impressed when a rookie is able to do that at this level. Like, of course, you're going to talk about that in somebody like Savannah DeMello. But I think in terms of consistency and in terms of ability, longevity, and, like, where a team is now going, it's Mal Pugh and the Red Stars.
Yeah. I think it's good. And it's going to be now interesting to see what happens, I think, this weekend, because Houston is also actually a very good team on set pieces much of the time. Maria Sanchez is very good in a dead ball. We've seen her do some pretty cool stuff this year in that regard. And we saw the point swing after the midweek. It was a very important midweek win, right? Because Angel City lost. That was also an important result, which put Chicago 4 points clear of Angel City. Now, Angel City does still have a game in hand, but you're 4 points clear. So you have now cleared at this point a 3-point swing should they win that game in hand. Yeah. Angel City now has a very tough match against San Diego. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. I think San Diego has probably been stewing over their last week's result for like a full week, and they're just ready.
I think it's important that you note that going like as we start to preview this game a little bit against Houston, is with the midweek match. Like, it clearly shifted things in the standings in general, but for Chicago specifically, and maybe like thinking like, going from like 6th to 5th is like not a ginormous leap,
right?
But in terms of the points that are separating these teams right now, not just 1 through 6, but 1 through 8, quite frankly, is
North
massive.
Carolina. Watch out, they're coming.
Oh my God, I don't know who they're gonna bump, man. But North Carolina is gunning for somebody in the upper half of the table.
They still got a lot of points to make up, but I think they could do it.
I think looking ahead to this game a little bit, we're getting a lot of these games throughout NWSL where the narrative, the storyline or whatever around them is like, is this a playoff preview?
Right.
Is this a playoff preview? Is this a couple teams that we might see in the playoffs, et cetera? And like, that's fine. Let's love it. Let's hype it up. It's NWSL. Yeah. But there's a number of those. So it's like you could say that about Chicago when they went up against the Reign. You could say that about Chicago as they went up about Kansas City. You could say that about North Carolina and Angel City as they went head-to-head midweek as well. We're saying that again this week, looking at Chicago getting ready to host Houston. Or Angel City facing off against San Diego. Or Kansas City having to play Portland Thorns now after this. Like, you're seeing that within each respective game, I think, kind of moving forward as some of these teams start going head-to-head, especially if you're seeded 1 through 8.
It's a good schedule for the end of the season. Like, it worked out that there's a number of these teams, like a lot of, crucial games no matter what, right? Because the points are so close, but we're getting some really good matchups here at the end of the season. But like the goal, I'm sure for Chicago is to have that final game against Angel City be meaningless. Or for like positioning. Like I think that like that's the dream.
So let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
If the goal or the dream is to have that Angel City game be meaningless.
Yes.
Is this game coming up against Houston Dash a must win or a must result?
I think every game. Okay, so let's like game this out, right? And I know that the team doesn't do this; they take it one game at a time. Salute to that.
Okay,
but
that's
for us,
our job is to talk about this.
Exactly. So they've got Houston, Portland, and Angel City left, right?
Yeah.
Portland is looking very good right now. They looked much better coming out of the international break. I think that they want the shield. They've also always been a pretty good group at staying focused themselves. I like what Portland is doing on the field. They just got Crystal Dunn back. That's going to be a huge boost for them.
Man.
Good vibes in Portland on the field, right? So that's the tough one, and it's in Portland. So
yeah,
that's the hard one, I think. So yeah, I think this Houston game, I mean, Houston's very good on the road. That's kind of like the joke of the season is that they're better on the road than they are at home.
Yeah.
For some reason, like they make everybody else's stadium their stadium. But I do think that, and I think that it's also when we talk about like teams you want to compete with, and again, not what they would say, but maybe what we would say is like, maybe Portland isn't that team. Maybe Portland is a team where you really, truly are an underdog going up against them. Houston, I think Chicago would like to have like a pretty evenly matched game and come out on top. Now, the bigger question is just, Houston's on full rest. Chicago's not. Chicago's playmakers played a lot in this Wednesday game. And you even noted when you were there that Pugh, it looked like she was just like her leg muscles were giving her a little bit of trouble.
She's been playing some minutes.
Yeah. So it's just like maybe cramping or anything like that. Yeah.
Let's not act like she hasn't.
Yeah. And so what Chicago team comes out, maybe you do rest Pugh for 45 again. What does that look like? What do you do with the midfield? Houston's midfield has been very good this year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these different things. I don't know if I would expect Houston to play a higher line. That's also been really interesting too. Is I was saying last week, I was like, no. Everybody plays like a mid-block against Chicago and like hits them on the counter. And then you saw OL Reign put 4 on Chicago's back line. And so people are like figuring out different ways to sort of game the Red Stars too. Right? And so I don't know what we're going to see. I think it'll be a good game. I'm excited for it, actually.
Let me ask you this. It's called transition.
Okay.
Quick turnaround for Chicago, not necessarily for Houston. Does Chicago need every advantage they could get? Possibly like protein and other ethically sourced things.
Well, first, Sandra, I want you to give your personal testimonial because you were telling me before we started that you
delicious.
Got some. Yeah. Hey, Sandra.
I finally got my hands.
She started the Athletic Greens lifestyle.
I got my hands on some AG1.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, put me in, coach.
Yeah, 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods. Did you hear the way I said foods? That was interesting. Probiotics and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery focused, and aging. All the things. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it costs you less than $3 a day. Investing in your health cheaper than your cold brew habit. Recommended by professional athletes like Sandra Herrera.
Me, number 1.
And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/ let's say Bears. Go Bears. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/ CHGO Bears to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
How about them Bears, though?
How about them Bears?
We love a Justin Fields.
That's right.
We love a belly slide in the rain.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the
Enjoyed
field,
that.
he's a field, and Soldier Field is also a field.
Yeah.
And
they 1-1.
Yeah.
It's the meld.
That's right.
It's the meld for sure. Look, it feels good to win.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of that happening across Chicago and their professional sports team. It's nice that the Red Stars are a part of that equation as well. Again, this is a Chicago Red Stars show, so we're not here to, give too much time to other teams, but we got to talk about the opposition.
Yeah.
When they come up. I'm going to ask you, buddy, Houston has had pretty strong season.
Yeah.
They are chasing a little bit of history of their own. They're trying to make
their first
the NWSL regular season playoffs for the first time in their franchise history.
Yeah.
And they bid farewell to what was a franchise player for a long time in Rachel Daly. And they've been still getting results, but they're coming into this final month, and they're on a winless streak. They haven't won in 3 games.
Yeah.
But, they have been competitive, and they've got a couple of results, a couple of draws that they're coming off of. Are they hitting the wall, or do you think they're plateauing a little bit at the wrong time?
They got really hot mid-season, and even just sort of statistical underlying points underneath what they were achieving, just results-wise. Like, everybody remembers that 4-1 loss to Houston, but then looking at the stats and being like, doesn't really look like a 4-1 loss. And so I think they're coming down to earth a little bit. Yeah, I think that they're coming down to match their underlying stats, but I don't think that their underlying stats are poor, right? So maybe they're not a 3-0, 4-1 kind of a dominating team. Maybe not. Maybe that's just sort of a very specific game state. But they're in a position to compete. Like we saw in that Angel City game with Houston last week, which was a tie. Houston did everything except put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And that feels, again, a little bit like a team reverting to the mean a little bit, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a close competitive game, because I do think it's going to be a close competitive game.
I do too.
Yeah.
Which is, I wouldn't say this feels like the game for either of these teams. I think
it could be a draw, honestly.
I do feel like it's going to be an important game in both of their seasons in terms of where they are in the table, going head to head, and how they kind of want to measure up each other. Because, looking into the standings again, going into this match in particular, if we're also including a team like Angel City in this, where you want to make them as irrelevant as possible down the stretch in your season, there's a couple tiebreaker scenarios in play here between Houston and Chicago. They're level on points, they're level on goal differential, and there's like 7 different tiebreakers.
I think Houston is ahead on goals scored, I think is what it is, all
the way down to, I think number 7 is like a literal
Oh, wait, no, they're
toss.
tied in that too.
Yeah,
they're tied in goal scored.
Come down to a coin toss between Chicago and Houston.
Yeah,
another thing you want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
So not only do you want to make that October 2nd game irrelevant, you want to just make it hey, thanks for coming out, fans, and enjoying watching us during the 2022 season. You want to make it that kind of game. Yep. Right. But you also want to, like, you're looking at this game and you want to maybe handle some of your tiebreakers a little bit. So I'm again, I think there's some good things. Yeah. Storylines in between the lines here going into this match against Houston, and I would like to see them all kind of play out. I hope we get to come back here and talk about another dub against Houston. When you're looking at this match specifically, who do you want to have a bad game for the Dash, and who do you want to have a good game for Chicago?
I think that. Okay, first of all, this is like a compliment. I think Jane Campbell has low-key had one of her best professional seasons this year.
Right on.
Interesting, she's like not part of the U.S. conversation right now, which I think is a little bit biased to like past performances. I think she's actually been quite good this year. So her, I think Jane Campbell, they got punished.
Some goals,
they got punished in that Angel City game for a miscommunication in the back, and so one of those gifts would certainly be nice for Chicago. And they don't do that a lot. So I think that if, that connection between, Katie Naughton and Campbell is strong, that makes it very difficult to play Houston. And player I would like to have a good game for the Red Stars. Let's get Morgan Gautrat a half hour.
Yeah, baby.
Let's get her. We're ratcheting it up. We got 15 We got 15 midweek. Let's get her up to 30.
Plus. We got 15-ish.
Yeah.
Let's do 30.
Let's do 30. And I just hope she has fun.
Honestly. Yeah. I'm just here for Morgan Shaw to come on back and say, hey, y'all have been doing great.
Yep.
And I'm just here to say, keep up the good work.
That's right.
I don't mind if that's her role.
Yeah.
For the remainder of the season, quite frankly. I think, who knows? Knock on wood. Yeah. Maybe that is the X factor. Mm-hmm. That's the X factor for the Chicago Red Stars, having a cool, calm, and collected Morgan Gautrat coming in off the bench to literally ice out a team.
Yeah.
You love to think about it. I love to think about it, and that's something.
What about you? Who do you want to have a?
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on Gautrat. Definitely want to see her continue to build her minutes. I would imagine that would be like a second half
60-minute, hopefully like a 60-minute something
for this team. I would love for Ebony Salmon to continue to cool off. Yeah, I would love to continue seeing that, a cool game from her. And I think if you are looking at Maria Sanchez, I think whoever is starting on that wing has work to do. So whoever is starting on the wing against Maria Sanchez, I want you to have a wonderful game.
Yeah, because they switch, don't they?
Yes,
so
they do.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult.
Whoever you are finding yourself going up against Maria Sanchez, that's who I want to have.
I'm just imagining. I'm imagining like BSG just being like, gosh darn it, they switched again.
They switched again. Here I go.
Yeah, because Sanchez and Prince like to swap, and so that's how they get you. You know?
They do. That is how they get you. Different looks, right? Different looks, different options.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. We've been saying that we got to do our part to ensure the Red Stars have a good final season. So we're going to keep manifesting good things. We're going to say that we're going to come on back here next week, link up with everybody once more.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a Chicago Red Stars dub.
Yep.
For sure. We're going to keep that good energy going. Always like to thank everybody towards the end of the episodes for joining us live as always. And just remind you that if you're looking for ways to support the show and the work at CHGO, one of the best ways to do that is with the CHGO membership. So just know there's a lot of perks. You get access to live shows and podcasts every single day on CHGO.
Yeah.
Literally every team in Chicago's got a show here at all CHGO. You get some post-game shows with some of the podcast shows. You get access to premium quality written content from my girl Claire Watkins at allchgo.com. You also get access to a lot of cool merch, free t-shirt when you become a member. And another very cool thing you get access to is the members only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. So once again, please support us in the show and the work and sign on up for a CHGO membership. Once you do that, come on back next week and join us to chat all things Chicago Red Stars, baby. Everyone have a good week.